gonna get situated here as you all hop in and we hang out. I have some topics I want to discuss, mainly just one, but I'm gonna make you guys a little bit higher. When you guys get here, let me know in the comments below where you guys are from. I always like to know where you guys are from. Let's hear. All right. Cool. Utah. UK looks like. Cool. Hello. All right, we're gonna get started on this, guys. So the title of this video is basically something that I've been dealing with with a lot of my clients for a while. So we'll get a client that will set up a call with, and we'll talk about, hey, my dog all of a sudden is like this, or my dog all of a sudden is acting a certain way, or my dog is all of a sudden I'm just going to take it off and I'm going to make you guys hear. Sorry about this, guys. So anyway, we're talking about dogs' behavior changing all of a sudden. And I want to point out something very interesting about this. So when we talk about dogs' behavior all of a sudden changing, you guys always have to look, or you should be looking at the age of the dog. So basically what I'm saying is a lot of the dogs that I work with online, a lot of people, when their dog hits 8 months to 12 months to a year, they become an adult dog. They become a dog that is changing in behavior. The dog is not a puppy anymore. And I've been seeing this a lot. I've been seeing this a lot with a lot of different dogs. People coming in and saying, hey, all of a sudden my dog doesn't like my other dogs, or all of a sudden my dog doesn't like puppies, or all of a sudden my dog doesn't like X, Y, and Z. And a lot of that has to do with just your dog becoming an adult dog. So just remember that when your dog is a puppy and they start changing behavior between the months of 8 to 12 months, that just means that they're becoming an adult dog. So it doesn't always necessarily mean that your dog is becoming different, or your dog is all of a sudden getting a certain way or a certain behavior. That just means that your dog is becoming an adult dog. So that's really the only thing I wanted to discuss as far as that topic goes. And I want to answer some of your popular dog training questions as people are rolling in from Sweden, Kansas, Liverpool, awesome, Ottawa. Cool. So let's start asking some questions. I know a lot of you guys have been over on my Instagram today. I posted this whole thing, and then I also wanted to just touch base on that too, just because I've gotten so much support on what I talked about today, and I hit like this breaking point, and I could not say something. So there's a lot of comments on just Instagram, or just in social media in general, not necessarily with me. I mean, everybody has social media and everybody deals with things differently, but I really I posted a big story on my Instagram and just talked about how just the pitfalls and the downfalls of people being afraid of using tools, and how much it's affecting dog owners out there. So if you guys haven't checked that out, I would do so. It's a really good conversation. So anyway, let's get into some questions, and I want to talk to you guys as much as I possibly can on here and go over some frequently asked questions. Books and videos are nice, but at what point should people seek help from a professional trainer? It's a great question. I always suggest, it's hard for me to answer that simply because I have so many people having great success with just watching a YouTube video from me, which I'm really grateful for, and I'm glad that you guys, have the opportunity. So really, if you're at your wit's end or you're having a hard time with behavioral cases, I always would recommend getting professional help just in general. I mean, it's even if you're watching videos and you're doing curriculum and you're finding new things out, if you're still having problems, or you're unsure of something, hiring a professional is always like my first go-to. Like when anybody types like this whole freaking DM on Instagram of like these 16 different pages, I don't even read any of those, because there's nothing I'm going to be able to do over an email or over a DM. So hiring a trainer is always a good start, or it's always a good thing to do in general. I don't think that there's any timeline that you have to say, okay, I got to hire a trainer because the internet isn't working. I think hiring a trainer just in general is a good idea. But like I said, I have had thousands of people reach out and say that they've seen really great improvements with just watching content online, not necessarily mine, but others as well. So anyway, if you guys get here, like this video, we have almost 300 people here. Thank you guys for hopping on here today. I'm excited to get to know you guys a little bit and answer your questions live. The other thing I wanted to mention is I'm drinking tea, but that's not what I wanted to mention. But I wanted to tell you guys that I've hired a new editor for my YouTube channel. So I used to do all of my edits that you guys would see on YouTube. It took me it takes me sometimes 3 days to edit those in between, working and things like that. So that's why I wanted to do this live, is to just let you guys know that we're going to be putting out content more than we ever have before. So we plan on doing 2 to 3 videos every week. And because I've hired a full-time editor to do that. So I'm really excited to do that with you guys. This week, we're not putting out any content because we're catching up. And starting next week, we're putting out 2 to 3 videos a week. So I just wanted to hop on here, and you guys support me, and I want to support you as much as I can. So I want to hop on here and chat with you guys and answer your question. Allie and Odin asked, how do you know if your dog is fear reactive or excitement reactive? My dog makes the same sound while he's playing when he reacts to dogs. We are on a walk, but he seems scared. It's a good question. I think the deciding factor, it's probably a little bit of both. I think that if your dog is playful with other dogs off leash and your dog is reacting with the same external vocalization, it's probably just, it looks possibly aggressive. I talk a lot about dog reactivity, but I think a lot of that is probably just your dog is frustrated to get to the other dog to say hello, or they want to go and meet the dog, whatever it is. So it's probably the same type of behavior and the same type of behavior that they're seeing. So it's a good question, but it's probably similar behavior. Cool. Michael Ellis, cool. Awesome. That's great. Yeah. My 2-year-old spaniel is all of a sudden challenging my older spaniel in some situations out of nowhere. They're both high energy dogs, and it's happening more often. How can I help them? So if your dog is challenging, it kind of just depends. Again, this is a, hiring a trainer is always nice, but I want to talk about these types of situations really quick. If you have 2 dogs that are kind of all of a sudden going after each other, they may be, again, the 2-year-old mark in some dogs is that maturity mark. So it could be something to that spaniel is just hitting that maturity mark, and he's starting to push the other dog around, and he's starting to, maybe take advantage of opportunities of the other dog for whatever reason. I don't know. But I think the big thing is just advocating for the other dog that's getting picked on. I think it's important for you to make sure that you're advocating for your dog, and you're telling the other dog, like, hey, like yelling across the room, hey, knock it off. Like if, my cat jumps on the counter, I'll yell across the room to get him off, and he'll jump off. So like if you see your dog kind of lining up with the other dog and they're getting kind of weird, you can holler at them and kind of correct them that way with voice inflection. The other thing is just maybe start to really analyze and audit if there's anything changed in your life. If you've moved, if somebody's entered the life, left the life, routines have changed, situations have changed. Sometimes these types of environmental changes can also trigger a dog to start acting up towards another dog. Exercise is another thing. If your dog is not getting enough exercise, or maybe getting less exercise than they're normally used to, they could also start acting up. So, and then to be honest with you, there's just sometimes where dogs get to a certain point where maybe they just, they don't see eye to eye on certain things, and they're starting to kind of have it out with each other. And there's really nothing that's changed, and there's nothing that you've done necessarily wrong. And it's something that you're just going to have to manage with obedience and management with the systems in place at home. So anyway. Let's see. Wow, there's a lot of questions coming in. Woo, cool. Let's see. Geez. Can I use the e-collar on a puppy? The e-collar is an extension of your communication. Should you correct the dog with an e-collar or correct a puppy on an e-collar? I'd say no, I wouldn't do that. But if you want to use an e-collar to extend your communication with the dog, like a lot of us do with the remote collars, You could totally do that. Just have to make sure that you know what you're doing with the e-collar. I think that that's like the biggest thing. I wouldn't use it to correct. No. What are your thoughts on neutering, and do you think it's a good or bad idea to do so? Wow, that's a question we get a lot too. So for me, I have dogs that are intact, and I have dogs that are fixed in my pack. So my Saint Bernard, who's 11, which is pretty old for a large breed dog, he's intact. There's certain behavioral traits. I will say that I did a podcast with a veterinarian talking about this. If you want to look at read that, you can. It's a tough question. It just depends on the breed, depends on the temperament of the dog. But I think generally speaking, if you let your dog, the reasons why people will ask you to neuter your dog or fix your dog early, there's a ton of them. I mean, obviously there's overpopulation. We don't want any random breedings. We don't want any unpredictable breedings, dogs having puppies and things like that. That's not good. So, I mean, there's that. But if you're just talking about a dog that you got home and you're wondering about if you should fix your dog or not, I mean, in my opinion, there's definitely some correlations and behaviors with intact males. Not getting along with other males for sure. Maybe being a little bit pushy. But the pros of keeping your dog intact until they fully mature, I think sometimes outweigh those behavioral things. Like, to give you a perfect example, is my Saint Bernard doesn't do well with other dogs, but I'd rather my Saint Bernard live longer and not get along with dogs he doesn't know. So it's really just, there's so many variables with fixing your dog. If you adopted a dog randomly, and it's a dog that you're not breeding for certain reasons to train and things like that, and you're just like wondering, I would wait for them to really develop their bones and get their hormones going and then fix them, around 1 year to 1.5 years. But again, it really just depends on so much. I mean, there's 10 different answers with 10 different people on that. So it's hard, but that's my opinion on that. Anna, let's see. My 8-year-old husky is virtually blind from glaucoma. He's recently lost his dog housemate. He is now very nervous in situations. How can I decrease his stress levels? Well, I think, again, just being there for your dog and advocating for your dog. CBD helps. Just getting it's, CBD. I did get a question on here. I saw Kevin flying in about CBD. CBD is great. It's definitely not, it's nothing that takes things away. It just kind of takes the edge off, but CBD is good to kind of like relax a dog just, a little bit. It's not like a sedative, or it's not like medication or anything like that. But if your question is, I have a blind dog that was successful with a dog that had recently passed that lived with us and now is nervous, that's a normal regression of, okay, the dog's shepherd, if you will, through life is not there anymore. So obviously we're going to be nervous, we're going to be anxious. So just do the best you can to guide your dog around the situations that they're nervous with. And there's nothing that you can do to really help with that other than just kind of push your dog through these situations together and work as a team. But CBD helps to kind of calm down any anxiety, but I would just help your dog be a little bit more, I guess, independent, and teach your dog what they need to be doing that they're having problems with, and just work through it together. Lauren Lopez asks about the reactive Sheltie. Can you use a prong in a reactive dog? Absolutely. I'm actually making a video. It's in production right now. It should be out next week, going over the sizing of the prong collar. That's probably my most frequently asked question. I am making a particular video about that you guys can watch. Every single dog is different, but that's how I'm going to address that situation, about how to address that. Yes, you can correct the dog for reactivity, and the sizing of the prong collar I have a ton of videos on, but you can watch that maybe next week when it comes out. So it's a good question. Andy, let's see. We recently adopted a 20-month-old lab pit mix. He is very shy and fearful. We are trying to build structure and leadership. Can doing too much too fast hinder that, pushing him too fast? Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, pushing any dog too fast can hinder anything. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't worry about it so much just with him being nervous. I would just worry about pushing a dog in general too much. But I think just slow and steady, going out and working in incremental sessions for 10 to 15 minutes or more, and just helping him do new stuff. So putting him on a place command, helping him go up the stairs, anything that he's afraid of, helping him get over. It's kind of like people, like we're afraid of doing something. We're afraid of this. It's like the scariest thing ever. And this could be anything for your dog, whatever this is. And then they try it and they're like, oh, it's not so bad. And you just keep using positive reinforcement and, just keep desensitizing these types of situations. So yes, you can go too fast with any dog, but I think with a more insecure dog, lots of positive reinforcement, lots of motivation, and lots of patience and consistency, and I think you'll be fine. But don't overdo it. I wouldn't be doing anything more than the most 20-minute sessions with that dog. Is it true that a prong collar can fuel certain dogs to be more reactive? Absolutely, Aaron. See, that's the big thing about equipment, guys, that I'm just like exhausted about. Not from that question, just like in general, is I advocate for tools, you guys. So I use e-collars, I use prong collars, I use martingales, slip collars, harnesses, food, treats. I use everything in the toolbox to work with dogs that I work with, because we have thousands of dogs coming in from all over the world. And we have to make sure that our toolbox is full of the things that we may need in diversity to make sure that the dogs that we are working with are going to be successful. So just one thing I want to point out with the prong collars is I don't use prongs on every dog. I don't use e-collars on every dog. There's people out there that use these tools unfortunately bad, and they can mess dogs up. And anybody that doesn't know what they're doing can mess a dog up with any tool, not just prong collars and e-collars, but with food and with harnesses and leashes. So when you're using tools in general, you guys, it's not the only thing that I use. When I put out videos here on content forums, platforms like YouTube and Instagram, I'm using tools to educate. I don't need to educate people how to put a normal leash on a dog or how to teach a dog to sit, because everyone knows how to do that. I put out content that I feel like people don't know how to do properly. That's why I've built the platform that I have, because I think everybody... I shouldn't say that. I think some people are like, that guy only uses equipment, and I certainly don't. I use equipment on some of the dogs that I work with. I put out content on equipment because I feel and I fear that people are using them wrong. And I love dogs more than anybody, or more than the next person, and I don't want anybody to misuse tools, and I don't want any dog to be further back. So there's that. But yes, you can use, if a dog is reactive physically and conflicted and really just built up, and you pop him with the prong collar and create that conflict, it can absolutely create more frustration and more animosity towards whatever they're reacting to, or even you. They can redirect on you. So there's certainly different things that you can use to get your point across and to help dogs understand what you're trying to do in your behavior modification process. But absolutely, any tool, can a treat make a dog more aggressive in training? Yes. Can a harness? Yes. Anything to really agitate the dog, if you're not, doing a lot of precision and not knowing how to handle the situation, could absolutely, not do what you want it to do. It could backfire. All right, I'm gonna take a sip of tea. I want you guys to, we have over 330 people in here. It's freaking awesome. I don't even know 20 people, so it's really cool. I'm gonna drink some tea. When you guys are here, just like this video. I'm gonna continue to answer your dog training questions, and this is gonna live on YouTube forever. So anyway. I was told correcting a dog was psychological abuse. Can you debunk that? Allie and Odin. I think I already answered one of these questions for you, but that's okay. Again, I'm not here to argue with there's two sides. The reality is, guys, is there's people who are going to be comfortable and agree with correcting and punishing a dog for bad behavior. That's one side. The other side is going to be people who do not believe in that. And all of their facts, data, research backs that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, everyone here that believes in punishment and discipline is the same thing. So it's this constant left and right thing of this, and they're never going to go, okay, let's agree. It's never going to happen. So anybody who doesn't support corrections tools or anything like that is always going to fight and attack and disagree with all of that. But that's where I try to come in, and I say, wait a minute, how come I just did this thousands of times, documented it hundreds of times, have all these people that are really happy with the success, I could cure cancer tomorrow with a prong collar, and people will hate the prong collar because of the agenda that they've built up in their own mind. It's a roadblock in their own defense. I don't care. I don't care to argue with anybody who disagrees with the uses of prong collars and equipment. My goal is dog owners. There is something else out there that can help. But to answer your question, how can I debunk the fact that psychological abuse can mess up or a prong collar can create psychological abuse? Well, I think that's the same thing of saying, like, if you yell at a dog or you yell at a person, it's going to create psychological abuse. I think to some extent you certainly could do that if you just hammered it in all day and the dog is just sitting there and we're just correcting a dog for absolutely no reason, eating popcorn, like, absolutely. But that's my point is you have to realize that the people who aren't backing or pro equipment will do anything in their power to just say that that's what will happen. And so how do I debunk it? I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and other people have done it thousands and thousands and thousands of times. So there's no like research data that I can pull up right now to say if you use a prong collar, everything's going to change. But I can tell you that if you misuse tools, you can mess up anything. And I also can say that if you use tools properly in the way that they were intended to, mainly by veterinarians and clinically issued doctors for these types of situations, you can make things better. So you can't always listen to one side. I believe that, as a balanced dog trainer, I use mainly purely positive training, mainly positive, positive, positive only, but 10% of my training, because of the amount of dogs that I work with that have behavioral problems and issues, I don't have to, but I choose to use punishment because it's streamlined the communication more than anything else. I never started working with dogs one way or the other. I tried every single system that I could do professionally, and I learned what worked best, and that's what I went with. So moving on. Let's see. Okay. What is the first collar for a puppy? Any collar. Really? Just a flat collar? Martingale collar is like my favorite, like, go-to collar. So I would say like a martingale collar. It's safe. It's easy to use. I think that all the people who submitted their stories about using training tools on your Instagram today debunks the psychological abuse fact. Absolutely. Just one person. I have a dog sitting right here that loves her prong collar. Debunked, I guess. I mean, it's not, yeah. So my GSD has a very high pack drive. Have you ever had to deal with this? What's the best way to deal with the separation from dog without putting them into drive? She will jump off a balcony. Well, I think just separating the dogs individually would do you good. So putting them on leashes and separating them would be a great idea. How to get my dog to focused heel if he isn't food or toy motivated? Just leash pressure. It's tough. I mean, definitely if your dog isn't motivated by something, I would urge you and encourage you to try harder. So there's different things that you can do, like try a tastier food, try chicken or beef, something like that. Or if you get a squeaker toy or something like that, put it on the end of a long line and really get your dog built up for that. But if not, you can just use a little bit of leash pressure, and it's going to take a little bit more time, but you can use leash pressure to kind of keep your dog up. There's also healing sticks. So there's actually sticks that you can use to, and I'm assuming that this is for competitive obedience. For those of you who don't know, competitive obedience for a competitive heel is getting your dog to look at you as you're healing. You can actually get like this stick. It's literally just a stick. It's a piece of wood, and you can kind of encourage the dog's head up and reward them verbally if they're not taking food or treats. So my dog gets along with most dogs, but some dogs he starts barking and lunging at. How do I stop the barking and lunging behavior, and how do I properly train this aggression? Well, I think the question is how are you handling the situation when it happens? So if your dog is reacting to another dog, how are you teaching your dog that that's an appropriate behavior? So I think that's like the big thing. Is your dog's probably not like aggressive, your dog's probably reacting. So if your dog's friendly with most dogs and then sees a dog and then gets overly excited and stimulated, they may react and it may look aggressive, but just working on leave it and working on your leash pressure would be a good idea. You can get a healing stick. You can use anything. Just use a stick. It's just a stick. You just kind of raise the dog's head up to kind of teach them that sort of thing. If you guys are here, don't forget to like this video. This is fun. I'm going to keep going live here on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to answer your dog training questions. I appreciate you guys hopping on. Again, I'm doing this live because I'm not putting out a video this week because we're editing a bunch of new stuff for next week. Okay. Wow, there's so many questions. I can't keep up. What kind of e-collar do you recommend? Dogtra. How long does a fear period last? Depends on the dog, depends on the breed, depends on the behavior, depends on what you consider fear. Generally speaking, they go through, like puppies go through like a fear stage anywhere from a week to 3 weeks. They kind of like, all of a sudden they're like, puppies go through this like I'm on top of the world to like, oh my gosh, there's there's other things in this world, and they get scared for a little bit. Any tips to stop my GSD from barking and jumping at cyclists and joggers? Teach your dog that that's not okay. How do you teach your dog? Well, you have to correct them. You have to punish them. We talk about this a lot with dogs and just using operant conditioning. So if your dog does something that you don't like if your dog jumps up here and they're crowd surfing and they're eating things off here, you could tell them off. That probably isn't going to work because the currency of the cheesecake that's on the table is way more important than your off. You can say, hey, get down or else you're in trouble. And he's going to be like, I don't care. I'm going to keep doing what you want. The same template when your dog is jumping and barking at bicyclists is you're going to say off, no, please, don't. You have to enforce it. What's your enforcement? They're going to do this to you when you do that. They're going to say, I don't care. I feel like I want to do this. You're telling me that you don't want me to. I don't care how you feel. So you have to correct them. You have to teach them, hey, just using your leash, leave it, pop. Give them some sort of discipline, some sort of structure, some sort of correction for doing that. And that's the fastest way I've been able to work with dogs in school with some of the dogs that we've worked with, as well as just being in the training academy with hundreds of dogs. What should the process look like for finding the right tool for your dog? Good question, Kelly. I think it's a matter of understanding your outcome and your goals. So for an example, let's break it down to like healing. If you're having a hard time healing your dog and your dog isn't conceptualizing heal and you're doing this the whole time and the dog, so sometimes what we do is we start off with a flat collar. Dog comes in with a flat collar. The dog is unresponsive to the flat collar for obvious reasons. The flat collar has no action. There's no action to the collar. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't come together. Nothing happens. So when you're doing like leash pressure, if you have a collar that has action, like a slip collar or a martingale or a pinch collar or something like that, that actually teaches the dog, you just kind of go up in increments. I have some dogs that are really responsive and sensitive enough to a slip collar. That's all they need is they need a little bit of pressure and they understand it and they get it. And then you kind of go up from there. Okay, my dog is completely ignoring me with a prong collar or with whatever. Then you switch to something else. So you just have to find what your dog responds to. Your equipment that you're going to be using is your communication with the dog. So you have to just find what the clearest communication is with the dog. If you want your dog to stop pulling and they're blowing through everything that you're putting on them, you just have to switch the system. That's how we do that at the facility. What brand of e-collar? Dogtra. Do you recommend any e-collars that won't break the bank? The good one seems to be expensive. Well, it's a good question, Gabriella, but investing in a good e-collar is the difference between the e-collar being an e-collar versus a shock collar. Because if you get like a really crappy collar, they typically don't have communicative levels. They have like really high levels to just correct your dog and not communicate. So I know Dogtra's units are anywhere between 150 to on up. I would just do the best you can to maybe go on Amazon, find something used, or something like that. But I wish I could give you an alternative to find something cheaper than $150 for an e-collar, but it's just one of those things that you really want to get a good quality e-collar, because if you don't get a good quality e-collar, it's not going to work as good as it can, or, whatever. So is there a certain age when you can use a slip collar or slip or prong? Talk about this a lot in my podcast. But a slip collar is something, just using pressure, just using action pressure in general, I think is something that you can start off with pretty easy if you're skilled enough. You don't want like a young puppy choking themselves out and possibly doing damage to any part of their body because they're young and they're fragile, and correcting them with anything really physically for that matter. You don't ever really want to do that. But I think just using a slip leash, like a kennel leash that slips together, is a good thing to start off with, just to teach that directional pressure, which I have a video coming out next week on leash pressure. So how do you feel about raw diets? Love them. All my doggers are on raw diets. Where is your training academy? It's in upstate New York. My boy is reverting back to his fear reactivity after 3 years of me rehabbing him. Any reason why all of a sudden he's falling off the wagon? I would just try some different things. So if you're using different collars, I would try to maybe switch them up. But again, just like Rebecca, find a trainer. I mean, that's what we do as trainers, is we problem solve. That's what I like to do anyway. When you come in, I problem solve with other trainers. Other trainers come in and we train. They're like, hey, what do you think about this? Or, I'm having a problem with this dog. So I think just finding yourself a creative trainer to help you get back on the wagon that you think that you fell off, it would be a good idea. Having that support and that just somebody, that third eye is always a good idea. So anyway, I'm going to take a sip of this. There's almost 350 people in here. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you guys supporting me. It means the world to me. I'm never going to stop as long as you guys keep supporting it, because I do it for you guys. I don't, that's it. I mean, that's what I talked about today in my Instagram story, is I could retire tomorrow probably, and my business is actively running really well with the 10 times X amount of employees that we have. And I do this for you guys. I really want to help you guys become better dog owners. And that's something that I think about often, is I just want to help you guys. So I'm appreciative and grateful for you guys hopping on here and hanging out with me tonight. Okay, let me get back to some questions here. My Border Collie, Melissa, asks, my Border Collie Husky mix starts screaming if there's a reactive dog that has tunnel. If there's a reactive dog that has kind of, and the e-collar and prong do not phase him, how do I correct this behavior? Well, Melissa, to be honest with you, I very rarely, it's not about the equipment, it's how you use the equipment. So I would have you do a lot of directional changes. So if you're out with your dog, see, and that's the thing too, is you have to realize that some dogs just don't care about any correction. You could turn your e-collar all the way up, hit it, they won't care. They're like, yeah, I don't care, I want to go after that dog. Happens all the time. Same thing with a prong collar. We're like sitting there and we're like, hey, do you pay attention to me? What are you doing? What are you doing? They're like, yeah, I don't care, I want to go kill that dog. So that happens, but it's the way you use them. It's the exercises that you do with them. So I'd be doing a lot of counter conditioning with obedience. So working on your heel, working on your leave it. And 9 times out of 10, a prong collar correction not working means it's not fit properly. So you want to make sure that that prong collar is high and tight, not down here. It should be way above your e-collar, sitting right behind the dog's ears. So that's what I would do. I have a lot of videos on that. So that's the first place I would start, is don't worry so much about, hey, this thing isn't working. Worry and focus on how you're using it. How often do you service dogs? Not often. It's not my forte. I primarily work on relationship building and behavior modification. So my facility does some of that too. How do you build confidence for dogs in public areas who are nervous? So if I have a dog that is nervous now, we have a dog in right now, cute little puppy. He's super cute, but he's afraid of everything. So what we do is you go to an area and you try to supply them with anything that they love. So if they love treats, you bring treats. If they love their toy, you bring toy. If they love, being pet, you bring your hands. So when you get out to these scary places like Home Depot or something like that, and they're like, oh man, you let them soak it up. You let them soak it in. Every time that somebody passes that they're unsure of, that nothing bad happens to that dog, then they develop confidence. And so desensitizing things that they're afraid of is a great thing to do. You just want to expose them to the right places at the right time. So lots of positive reinforcement, lots of good job, buddy, good job, and just desensitizing them to these things. So that's what I would do. All right. My GSD once caught and killed a squirrel and now is super obsessed with them. Any tips to deal with squirrel obsession? She's not interested in food on walks. I think just A is, whoa, so many questions. I think just in general, prey drives in dogs are natural. So it's primal instinct for a dog to want to chase little fuzzy things that squeak. That's why they chew on squeaker toys. Like, we think it's cute and it's funny that dogs are like grabbing these little teddy bears and ripping them apart. They're killing it. That's what they're doing. When a dog hears a squeak in the couch and they rip up the couch, they think it's a mouse. So dogs are natural killers, if you will. They're animals, they're canines. And so if he actually caught a squirrel, he's like hooked and he's obsessed with like, okay, I can actually, tangibly catch one of these things and actually have it. It makes total sense. It's like getting the stuffed animal that he's always wanted. So you just be working on obedience. So it would be leave it. It would be healing. It would be on disengagement. I wouldn't be focusing on, hey, my dog is paying attention to squirrels. I would be focusing on, hey, if you're paying attention to squirrels, but you're in a nice heel, I'm okay with that. And if you work on a focused command back to you, for little bits of time, I would be working on that too. So I would just, and then try to actually take advantage of that prey drive and maybe use a tug toy or something with a squeaker in it to pay him for paying attention to you. So anyway. Where can you purchase my merch? You can go to, I think, shopnobaddogs.com. It's on our website. It's on my Instagram profile. If you go to @TomDavis, the link tree thing, you can shop right there. But we have all of our merch, and we're coming out with new merch every month starting this spring, which I'm really excited about. So any good dog trainer in Long Island, you're booked till summer. Yeah. Well, I just did a Instagram post encouraging dog owners to tell people and dog owners where they're from, dog trainers, I mean. Go on my Instagram post and type it in. Say, hey, I'm looking for a dog trainer in Long Island, and hopefully somebody can pick that up. How do I work on training in new environments when my dog won't take even high-value treats? Well, I have a video specifically on this that'll give you 20 minutes of straight information, Avery. It's on my YouTube channel, and I think it's called Training Your Dog Without Treats or Training Your Dog Without Food or something. But if your dog isn't food motivated or anything like that, a lot of people deal with that, and that's how a lot of people end up with me, is because they work with a trainer that their whole training cycle and whole structure is predicated off of reward-based systems. And when the dog isn't motivated by hot dogs, you fail miserably, and that's common. And so it just depends on what you want to accomplish. So it's hard to answer, but you have to you have to audit your actual goals that you want and try to figure out individually how to do that. So don't be discouraged if your dog just doesn't, it's called Getting Your Dog to Behave Anywhere. Yes, I think that's true, Melissa. Thank you so much for putting that in. But that video I would check out, because that's like, honestly, personally, it's like one of my favorite videos. I did it with Lakota, and it's a really good one. It talks about what are you going to do if your dog doesn't respond to food. And some dogs, when they're out and they're stimulated and they're like, holy crap, this is the real world, they're not going to care about food. They don't care about food. So don't predicate your training off anything other than your relationship with your dog. Yes, you're welcome, Avery. Good luck. Ange, my 9-month-old female pit barks at everyone. She doesn't stop. Also, when she walks, she pulls and even chokes herself. I would recommend a pinch collar for your dog. It's the safest, one of the safest tools to use. Definitely the safest collar you can use on a dog to stop a dog from pulling and hurting their tracheal larynx. So I have a lot of videos on how to introduce that and how to pick the right collar for your dog. So you just need more control. That's all. Just wanted to say you've helped me train my Rottweiler watching your videos. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. That's why I'm here. I want to help you guys. My passion, since I can remember, has been helping dogs. So I'm really grateful for the platform we've created. You guys are the freaking best. You really, really are. I'm so excited to see what we're going to do this year. We have a lot of cool stuff on the plate. So, let's see. I just got a puppy cleared for not being innocent. Woo, clear bill of health. Good. No, not innocent, incontent. Okay, sorry. I thought my puppy got cleared for not being innocent. Our dog is terrified of anything in public. He is fearful of pressure around his neck. He was dumped in our neighborhood at 4 months old before we got him. What tool approach would be best for him? Well, I'd have to really see. You know, that's something that, again, I would hire a trainer to help you. Sometimes when we are dealt with a hand that we don't know what to do, that's why we hire a professional. Like my snowblower just broke. I am not mechanically sound at all. I am not going to spend my time and energy trying to do that. I'm going to hire a snowblower small engine mechanic to fix that for me. So my best suggestion for you is to find somebody that can help. And I know that that doesn't really help me because I'm sure you probably have. You know, motivation, you don't have to use a collar. You can use something else that he's more comfortable with if he's more comfortable with a harness. But I would suggest trying to desensitize a collar, because that's going to be the safest thing for you to work with him. So you can help him through time, you know, get better and get desensitized. But I think, again, just lots of positive reinforcement. You know, I've had a lot of breakthroughs with dogs with the prong collar. It is something that dogs will shut down on in the beginning, because you could put anything on them and they don't like it. But the prong collar has really helped me break dogs through. I have a video on my YouTube channel with a pit bull that I probably did in the last 3 months. He's a tan pit bull, and I would recommend watching that, because that was a dog that shut down all the time. And we used the prong collar to break him out of his shell and to get him more confident. And now he's living a really, really great life because of that. So, can you talk about the introduction of tools to petite dogs? My dog is 4 pounds and we use only a pager collar, but I would love to upgrade to a Dogtra. Yeah, Dogtra makes an IQ Mini, which is a very, very small unit. And the reality is like, hey, I have a 4-pound dog. A lot of things are going to be big for that 4-pound dog because it weighs as much as this candle cap. So Dogtra, I believe, makes a IQ Mini that's like really small and petite. I would check that out. That's a collar that I would check out. Lauren asks, I live in a smaller town and we only have positive reinforcement trainers, about 4 different companies. Super disappointing when dealing with a reactive dog. I would agree. A lot of people are dealing with that, which is why balanced dog training is through the roof. I know myself and my colleagues, we cannot keep up. So it is unfortunate, but I do know that dog owners out there are understanding some of these realities of things. And so I have found that the hardest part with a balanced dog trainer, more than likely, is they're completely booked. So that's the unfortunate thing, but you can do online session with me or somebody else that does balanced dog training that can actually help you with these things. So that's something that you could look into too. So you can work with somebody remotely. I've been doing online training for about 5 years. Been doing it a long time, and well, I would consider that a long time. And this was before COVID, obviously. So once COVID hit, I know a lot of other people jumped on doing online stuff. So that's what I would recommend. Have you worked with Shiba Inus? Yes, I have. I have a 9-year-old Sheba that is very feisty towards other dogs. Sounds about right. Yeah, Shebas are one of the only dogs. Shebas, Great Danes, and Huskies have been, in my opinion, the only consecutive dogs that their breed has dictated their behavior. If I get somebody's like, oh, I have a German Shepherd or I have a Golden, I don't care like what you say they are. Every dog is different. I've never had dogs act the same continually and consistently except for those breeds. So correcting the behavior when it happens. Shebas are very cat-like dogs. They are in it for themselves, and they could be very bossy, like you said. So just making sure that you're correcting the behavior you don't like. Again, that's a template for anybody out there. I had an online today. We're struggling with this reactivity. We've tried working with a trainer, and the trainer only wanted to reward the dog when they barked and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I get it. But listen, if your dog is reacting and doing things that you don't like, doing things to a point where you're almost getting rid of the dog, and that was the case for these trainers this morning, correct it. I always tell people, okay, so you're having all these problems and it's really stressful or whatever, but you've never corrected your dog. And people are like, well, we say leave it, and we throw a shoe across the room or whatever, but none of that stuff works. Dogs need to be communicated in a very assertive, like, hey, me, pay attention to me. Don't do that. That's bad. And they go, oh, that's bad. Yeah, that's bad. Don't do that. And then they don't do it, and then you pay them, and they get cookies and treats and all that fun stuff, operant conditioning, just like how we raise children. So. How do you stop puppy communication biting at a 10-month-old German Shepherd Husky still uses his mouth more when he's bored to pay attention. It's stressing out our family. So I'm going to say it again. Correct your dog. Correct your dog. Correct your dog. Punish your dog. Tell them that it's wrong. That doesn't mean literally tell them that it's wrong because they're not going to care about that. You got to use a collar, use a communication collar, use something that's going to get to the point. Say, hey, what are you doing? You can't do that. Just put in a martingale collar and a basic collar. Coda, come here, baby. Come here. I'll show you guys a martingale collar. So this is a martingale collar that like Herm Springer makes, right? So you put this on and you put your leash on here and your dog bites you and you do this. You go, leave it, and you pop. And they go, hey, I don't like that. And you go, well, stop biting me because you're ruining our lives. Okay, and you mark it with a leave it, and they stop, and then you pay them. So, I hope that helps. I'm gonna take a sip of water, answer some more questions. It's a problem about being passionate about something is I just don't stop, and I gotta take a quick water break. But if you guys are here, like this video. How do you book an online session? Go to my website, americaschanineducator.com. Better yet, go to my Instagram. There's a little tab that says book now. I am completely booked right now until I don't know when I'm booked till, to be honest with you, but you just got to stay updated on that. But that's how you book. I usually do morning sessions, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 12 Eastern Standard Time. In the morning, I usually do all my onlines. So if you don't have availability and it says that there's no availability, it refreshes every 2 weeks. We don't book anything out more than 2 weeks because my schedule changes so quickly. How was it working with wolves? It was awesome. It was really, really cool. A great experience. Really great experience. They're absolutely beautiful. Let's see. Do you think neutering a 2-year-old male German Shepherd would help with aggression? Maybe. Like I said before, neutering is one of those things that it's really tough to say if it's going to help or not, but it could. I don't think it's going to do any. If your dog's already 2 and you neuter him, it's probably not going to do anything worse. I think it can only help. How do you tighten a dog's heel and recall? Use a leash. No, it's not standard to continue to correct your dog. That just means that they don't understand what you're correcting them for, probably. So if we're doing this the whole time, heel, 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 your foundation, your fundamental healing in your leash pressure probably isn't existing. So your dog probably doesn't know fundamentally what heel is. So a lot of times people will tell their dog to sit, and their dog looks at them like they have 10 heads. It's like, what does that mean? They don't know sit. So just, I guess my answer to that is just make sure that your dog fundamentally knows what heel is before you try to do it outside. If your dog half-ass knows heel, kind of, and you go out and you do it in a very distracted environment, there's a good chance you're going to constantly be yanking on your dog. So, can you explain relationship-based reactivity? My dog Winnie is with you right now, and Kyle told me that he believes her reactivity to other dogs could be relationship-based. So it's not relationship-based reactivity. That just means that the dog is reactive because of their relationship with you, more than likely. I don't know. I can't speak for Kyle, but that if somebody says that the dog is reactive because of their relationship, that means that the dog is reactive because of the relationship that you have with that dog. Do you know Caesar Milan? No, I have a lot of friends that work with Caesar every day, but no, we've never met. Off-leash training suggestions for my 8-month-old lab. Well, I mean, there's two things. You're either off leash with a remote collar, or you're on leash with a long line. And to me, I did a post today in my story, and I never have to really use my e-collar with my dog, but I always have my e-collar on my dog when I'm in public places off leash, because I just don't know what other people are going to do. So I have an e-collar video on how to introduce the e-collar on my channel on Recall. I'll repeat that. I have a e-collar introduction video specifically for Recall on my YouTube channel. It's 2 videos ago on my latest post. I would highly recommend checking that out. Because to me, I love animals and love dogs too much to be naive to say, oh, well, I'm just going to use treats to get my dog to come back off leash, because once they get a whiff of a rabbit or a squirrel or a chipmunk, it's over. It's all over, Johnny. So I like using an e-collar to be able to communicate where areas I can't touch. Manual. You got a Hermspringer for your dog. It's too small. When I get extra links, do I put one on each side, or can it be even? It doesn't have to be exactly even, but you can. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly even. How do you fix a dog that's e-collar wise? Put the e-collar on as much as you possibly can and not use it. I think that's like the best way to do that, and just desensitize the e-collar being on and not using it. What do you do about dogs' noise phobia? I've never even heard of that. So, sorry. Big fan from Canada. Cool. Thank you so much. My boxer is hit or miss with other dogs. We are told he's fear aggressive but selective. He has fear aggression but is selective. Yeah, I mean, certain dogs are, if they're fearful, if your dog is fearful, if your dog is fearfully reacting, oh my hair, sorry guys, my hair is a little lit. If your dog is fearfully reacting to other dogs, it is going to be hit or miss to who or he or she reacts to, because he or she is going to be reactive to dogs that he is fearing versus dogs that he may be comfortable with. So it makes sense, but I would just try to socialize your dog as much as you can with positive reinforcement. So getting around the right dogs is important. Don't get around a bunch of dogs that are going to be overwhelming for your dog. So how much is to book an online session? I think it's $220 USD per hour. How do you positively associate a prong collar? Put it on. Once it's on, it doesn't do anything. So I think the question is how do I associate the dog how do I associate the dog with the prong collar positively over versus corrections is when the collar is on, you have to think about the correction should only happen once or twice, in a little segment. And that correction is quick and uncomfortable for the dog to teach them and punish them and just say, hey, nope, that's not it. We're not doing that. And it's over. So it should be a lot of positivity. Like when I'm training with a dog with a prong collar, they're excited to put it on. I've never had a dog cower with a prong collar to say that they didn't like it. So you just have to make sure that you're using it properly. What do you suggest for a toy obsessive dog to reactive? What do you suggest for a toy obsessed dog to redirect behavior? He will pass for hours looking for them and will not come down to play. Pace for hours, sorry. Looking for them to play. I would just find a different outlet. So if your dog is obsessed with toys, I would get your dog to train and take that energy and put it towards something else. Like if your dog is like, I gotta get a toy, I gotta play with a toy, say, no, you don't. Actually, you can play with me, or you can hold that toy. So the toy's on you and you do obedience with it. So is it true that male dogs won't attack female dogs? Nope, that's not true. What do you recommend for control of a strong dog if they're triggered by a prong collar? Triggered, I don't mean, triggered meaning like gets mad about the prong collar or gets upset or has a conflict. It just depends on what you're working on. The prong collar, again, it's a communication. So it's kind of like anything else, guys. Like the prong collar is literally just something that just communicates for you better. That's all it is. It's not like this, you put it on and your dog's trained, or you put it on and all of a sudden the training starts. No, it's just a communication. It's just a communication. It's just like here, we're talking. It's communication. Is a prong collar good for a blind or senior dog? I don't know. It depends. Sure. The prong collar is a communication, guys. It could be, sure. I wouldn't put a prong collar on a blind old dog and correct it like crazy. Absolutely not. No, that's something I definitely wouldn't do. No. Wouldn't do that. Don't stress your dog. The prong collar should not be initially stressful for your dog. The prong collar can create stress because you're breaking through new things that they didn't want to do, or you're helping them overcome different behavioral things that they do. But stress is part of dog training in general. Anybody out there that says stress is bad in dog training, well, if you're doing something new and you're doing something different and you're modifying or you're changing or you're drastically changing the dog's perspective of things, that's stressful. So buying a house, stressful. Going on a first date, stressful. First day at your dream job, stressful. So there's always stress involved with progression. So remember that. Why does my dog think he needs to protect us all the time? Probably because you're not clearly showing to your dog that you're a positive, not positive, a good leader. That's probably why. So, a couple things that I'm doing that I wanted to tell you guys is, again, I hired a full-time editor. Awesome. So we're putting out the most content we've ever done this year, which I'm really excited about. We're putting out new merch. We're doing a whole new line with No Bad Dogs coming this spring. Super, super pumped on that. So we're going to put out new merch drops every month. And then also we're developing, this is the game plan, is we're developing classes for you guys to download. So no, we're not making merch for babies. Classes that you guys can download. So much like you see in a lot of other companies like Learberg or other companies that you can download a module or a class, we're going to start to do that with some of the cases that I do. So we're going to create we're going to be a little bit more on our higher production, and we're going to actually create modules that you guys can purchase and download and watch as many times as you want. So we're going to be having modules for leash walking, prong collar introduction, e-collar introduction, so on and so forth. We're going to put them on the website. You guys can download them, and it's going to be a step-by-step guide and tutorial and blueprint on how to do these things, because you guys are seeing, on YouTube anyway, I don't know if you guys follow me in other things, but you guys are seeing me upload an hour session working with a dog owner, and me and my editor are breaking that down to 10 to 15 minutes at the most. So there's a lot of information and there's a lot of stuff that I wish you guys can see, but we're doing that. So we're breaking down tutorials. So these videos will be sometimes an hour long. just going over the do's and the don'ts and answering all of these questions so you guys can actually download them on your smartphone, your tablet, or your computer, and you can rewatch them and do whatever you want with them. So we're really working on that. That should be out this summer. And I'm really excited about that because it's going to be really nice to just send you guys to my cart to just say like, hey, buy this. We go over all of this right there. So we do that on YouTube. I mean, that's a lot of things that we do here on YouTube. But like I said, these are going to be more long form tutorials of people who really want to dig deeper into this information. So we're going to take some more questions here. I have 2 female German Shepherds. Who both fought with a new female German Shepherd. What is happening? They never fought aggressive like this. We have 2 female German Shepherds who both fought with a new... So you got a new dog and they're fighting. That sounds pretty likely. But that doesn't necessarily surprise me that much if you brought a new dog home and they're not getting along. How do you safely socialize a reactive dog? Live in a large apartment complex with lots of dogs. Well, to me, I don't think all dogs should always meet each other. I don't like when I'm out with my dogs, I don't have my dogs meet with anybody. So I think it's important for you guys to know that just because your dog is reactive and your dog is, potentially aggressive, or maybe not even aggressive, maybe your dog just doesn't like other dogs or whatever the case may be. I think that that's okay, and I think that you should just avoid those situations at all costs. But I would also encourage you to get to the core of what's going on. So if your dog is fearful, how can we develop a stronger relationship or stronger confidence? Is your dog actually aggressive? Well, then, maybe you're gonna have to, if you're looking for advice on how to curb a reactive dog's reactivity when you live in a place where there's a lot of dogs, you have to start with the reactivity. So, making sure that your dog understands leave it and heel and all those things. So I would love to know more about dog behavior. Yeah, we're going to do all that stuff. What brand e-collar would you suggest on a $300 budget? The e-collars are really just predicated off of how far you want them to go, especially with the dog tree units. You can get a 1900S or an ARC hands-free for less than that, and the ARC hands-free is a nice popular unit. So it's like a dog training course from day one by day when you get your dog. Kind of, it's just going to be modules of everything that you guys want to know in longer format. So you guys I post a video of like, hey, this dog is aggressive. Let's see what we can do. You're going to watch it. It's going to be 10 to 15 minutes long. But in the modules and the new courses, they're going to be broken down a lot more. So if you guys haven't yet, do me a solid freaking favor. Like this video when you get here. Leave in the comments and let me know where you guys are from. I'm going to take a couple more questions. I have a white Swiss Shepherd that is really anxious and fearful when people want to pet her and approach. Do you suggest build her confidence with people since she's been like that since day one? If she's been like that since day one and she was born insecure, there's a good chance she's not going to like random people coming up and petting her. So I would highly suggest just telling people that she's in training and she's nervous and they're not to come up and pet her. My GST only responds to my commands on a prong collar and leash. How do I transfer commands on a normal leash or even off leash? That's because training. You're not doing quality training, I would assume, Alexis. You have to make sure that your dog is responsive to the things that you're saying and not just responsive to a correction and not just responsive to treats or food. So you really have to, again, get down to the foundation of your training to make sure that your dog understands what you're doing. Boston, UK. What else we got? Where else are you guys from? Boston, UK, Belgium. What's good? That's awesome. People, Poland, born and raised in Clifton Park. Awesome. San Diego, sweet. Poland, cool. Jacksonville, Florida, Netherlands, Portugal, UK, Ontario, California, Israel, Minnesota, Long Island, Germany, Canada, Miami, Miami, Indiana. That's right. Cool. Lebanon, Toronto. I'm actually going Scotland, Ireland, Michigan. I'm going to Florida in a couple weeks to do some private training, which I'm excited to get out of this snow weather. New Jersey, Niagara Falls. I just sent somebody home from Niagara Falls today. Toronto, Houston, Indiana, Lebanon. All right, Sweden, Ohio. Do you guys have any final questions at the end? If you guys want to blast off any questions, you guys can ask me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be about dog training. It could be about dog training if you want. Any questions here at the end? Glens Falls, New York. Cool, Brooke. That's where I grew up, kind of. Arizona. Toronto. Does the prong collar have to be as high up as possible, even if it's tight? It should be up as high. I mean, it doesn't have to be. If it's down, it's not a big deal. It just doesn't work. That's all. Can we see your dogs? Yeah, I think. Well, Lola's in the truck. My older dog's in the truck. Coda! Any funny training stories? Yeah, every day is funny. Come here, baby. Let's see Lakota. Come here. This is Lakota. Come on. She's my Dutch Shepherd. Come here. Come on. Oh, baby. Oh, is this Cokes? You're my baby. She actually hurt her pad because it's really icy here. So my mom came over and threw with her, and she cut her pad, so she's kind of sore on her pad right now. So she's being a little baby. Just so you guys know, she always does this with her ears. There were some videos that I put out with her. See, her ears are back. Somebody was like, oh my God, she's so terrified. Nope, that's how she always is. All right, you guys want to see Thompson? I'll show you Thompson. Wait, where is Thompson? Where is that big boy? Let's see if I can find him. Oh, there he is. Oh, buddy. Oh, there's my big boy. All right, cool. All right, you guys. He always slaps me. All right, I'm going to go get some dinner. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you haven't yet, go over to my Instagram and hop on how equipment has changed your life. There was a comment on there on YouTube that somebody said that they would rather euthanize a dog than correct a dog with a prong collar. And that's something that's happening all over the world. And I'm doing the best I can to share success stories of equipment and how it can change people's lives. If you haven't yet, do me a favor. There's always 300 people in here. Go over to my Instagram, tag me in your story, telling me or showing me, or just a picture with your dog with equipment and how it's helped you in your relationship. And I can share it with the world. And I'm going to create a little icon in my story highlight in my Instagram to put all of those success stories. If you guys haven't done that yet, go do it. We're trying to advocate and we're showing people how, I mean, there's more people out there using tools than not, but I want to make sure that we have a documented file of how important it is to understand what tools are. So, Coda. All right, you guys, have a good night. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.